Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto. Hope you're all doing great, and welcome to this new video right here on the markets. We're going to do a full update, right? So I wanted to start off with some fundamentals that I think you need to know about regarding what's going on today in the world, of course, but also a little bit about tomorrow, because tomorrow, as most of you know, if you watch my videos, we have the FOMC meeting or Federal Reserve press conference or interest rate decision, whatever you want to call it. So that's going to be very interesting, and I think that has a major effect on what's going on with the price at this point of time as well. But we'll talk about that. First, starting off with the fundamentals. Hope you're all doing great, by the way, this week. It's not been an amazing week for the markets, but ultimately, I think there's a lot of reasons to be hopeful as well. Now, I do not know what's going on in the world right now. So tension in the world still seems to be quite high. It's still seems to be quite high. We actually got some economic data earlier today with this is tomorrow. We got some economic data right here with retail sales being lower than expected, industrial production also being lower than expected, and that's it. Which is actually positive data. Look, what you want to see, and I know that this sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but you want to see economic slowdown in the US for a higher potential that we actually see rate cuts. Right now, tomorrow we have an interest rate decision. I think the chance that we actually get a rate cut tomorrow is like 0.2%, aka very, very low. 0.2%, exactly right. But so short term this doesn't matter, long term it does. As long as there's no indication that we're going to get into a recession with the United States, it's good, right? Because then it increases the probability of getting rate cuts either in July or September. The next one is so ultimately this is actually good news. Now, why is the market then dropping down still? I think that's a mix of things, right? So if you take a look at some other fundamentals right here, just taking a brief look, what you can see is that the S&P 500 over the course of today has pulled back a bit. And you can also see that the volatility index today opens a little bit higher. Gold also was a bit more resilient and is holding the monthly POC. So just in general, the market is a little bit more sensitive, it seems, to the unrest in the world right now. And then tomorrow we have the FOMC. What you see quite often before that is actually some de-risking, right? So right now, if you take a look at the open interest for Bitcoin right here as well, you can see the open interest since yesterday evening has dropped down an incredible amount. Now, is that necessarily bearish? No, but it, it's an indication that we are seeing some de-risking, and that's normal, and also expected. I mean, if you watch my video this morning, I said that we would. If you go to the higher time frames right here for Bitcoin, you can see we hit the top of this wider range, and I said, it seems likely that we're going to drop down into this tighter range right here, and I think that's happening now as well. Now, ultimately, I'm relatively optimistic about holding this tighter range, right? I mean, yes, there is unrest in the world, so we're talking about Bitcoin right now before we talk about Ethereum, XRP, and some altcoins. But yes, there's unrest in the world, and I'm definitely not trying to be cynical about that, right? Because it matters a lot to those living there. But the market hasn't really been that reactive to it. And what you can see right now is that the open interest has already dropped down a lot. There is some more open interest coming in right now, but that is mostly short positions being opened, right? And I think those are quite late. Right, so short term, going back to Bitcoin right here, like this yellow area is that tighter range. Short term, I think we can pull back a little bit lower, but there is a huge amount of liquidity right here from 105,000 all the way down to 103.6. And somewhere there, I do think we're going to spike down to that, find a lot of support, and then from there remain stable until the FOMC tomorrow. And I think the FOMC tomorrow actually has a pretty good chance to be bullish. I'll still talk a little bit more about that tomorrow, of course, in my videos. But given the economic data we've had, especially right here in the first half of June, I think there's reasons to be optimistic. I think the bottom for Bitcoin on the lower time frames right here is actually closer than the start of this dump, and I think we'll just remain relatively stable at least for the next 24 hours, and then tomorrow we'll see again. That's what I would say is most likely right here on Bitcoin. Now, looking at some other altcoins, they probably look a little bit worse. XRP has dropped down a little bit lower, also as expected, into this level right here at 2.19, not the end of the world. Ethereum has also dropped down a little bit lower. If you watch my videos this morning, that was completely as expected, right? And I think when we're looking at these, I would say that the same is likely as with Bitcoin, right? So if you take a look at the correlations right here with Ethereum and Bitcoin, it's 0.82, extremely high. If you take a look at the correlation with XRP, it's not that high, but the 3-day correlation is 85%. So therefore, I would say it's most likely that XRP will remain stable around 2.2. I would say it's most likely for Ethereum to remain stable right here around 2,520, 2,540. Right, so stability, very boring, of course. But that is what I do think is most likely right now, and that is ultimately what I make these videos for, right? Now talking about altcoins, there's no major new updates that I think I need to tell you about. We got some news for EigenLayer, right? So I'm not sure if you know that, but some pretty good news for that, and I think in general this is a very interesting project as well. So EigenLayer looks interesting, but technically, look, this doesn't look good enough to buy. Even though the general narrative around EigenLayer, so DeFi, is still my favorite narrative right now, right? So with coins like Frax, Uniswap, Aave, Pendle, they're holding up the best, right? And most likely when the market actually does get some relief, they'll be the ones to rally. So keep your eyes on that, but that's what I think you need to know for now. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all in my next videos, and bye.